New York, New York. It's good. Your boy, your co-pilot. Well, actually, I'm the pilot tonight. It's me, you pilot. It's time. It's got us a little bit excited tonight, thank God. We see a little bit of a victory in the garden for once. You can actually come on here with a little bit of comfort and happiness for once. As you know, we don't do this show alone. I'm bringing my boy, Joe from upstate.
Hello, hello, hello.
Good evening,
Happy tidings. Happy tidings, man.
Happy tidings. We had a pretty good night tonight, from what I can tell.
Yeah.
The Knicks came through, and wow, we didn't even have a cramp tonight. That's a good thing.
It's funny when you see things firing on all cylinders. You get an idea of how good this team actually is.
Absolutely. We definitely had a great showing tonight. Definitely watching the debut of Wembanyama. We're going to get into that in a little bit. How's your day going? First and foremost, let me ask that. I don't like just getting into the basketball. I like making sure everybody's good. Are you good? You good?
I appreciate that, man. I'm blessed. Life is good. I'm going to be in sunny Aruba next week. So chilling out on the beach with my mom, and my wife hasn't divorced me or buried me in the backyard. So I'm blessed.
That's a good sign. That's a good sign. Anytime if you wake up with any little bit of dirt in your eye, it's a problem. I tell people. That means you're a little 6 feet where you don't need to be. So thank God we're not in that category, and that would not explain why you're sitting here talking if you were ahead of death. So that's good.
But I appreciate the consideration. How you doing today?
I can't complain too much. I always tell people I got no rabbi, so we just keep it moving over here and continue to smile. That's all you can do, brother.
Nice.
Definitely. So might as well get it started. Let's get it started in here. New York, what's up? All nicked up family, what's good? Let's get to the meat on the bone tonight. We have the San Antonio Spurs versus the New York Knicks. This is an old rivalry for anybody who's old enough to actually remember. We played these guys in the finals several years ago. To our dismay, was what is a shortened season, but one of the more magical Knick teams that we can recall to date were part of that glorious year. Unfortunately, we fell a little bit short. However, that was, I think, the debut actually of Tim Duncan in the league, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So we are coming a little bit full circle where we have Victor Wembanyama, who made his Garden debut tonight. But let's get into the fun stuff here, which is that our Knicks actually showed up and showed out, which is always a beautiful thing from a fan standpoint. I was a little bit worried coming into it. I said, I'm going to run this live thing and probably be miserable with a box of Kleenexes. But, eyes are dried, and life is pretty dang on good up in New York, So what was your thoughts on the game? We saw, everybody seemed to contribute.
Right.
We got great games from everyone. We could start from R.J. Barrett, and we could also end with basically the two centers, the two-headed centers who had to face this young neophyte, as Walt would say. And we're seeing the Knicks team to come together. Even Julius had a great game. I mean, we always use him as the linchpin and the polarizing figure on this team. But overall, a good game. What was your thoughts on the game tonight?
I had to tell you that if I'm going to take a pessimist side of this, I'll be like, well, they were shooting the three out of their mind. Of course, they won that game. But in the optimist side, they shot the three really well.
Yeah.
They're sparking it pretty good. RJ, man.
Whew.
He has looked better than I have ever seen him in a Knick uniform this year. Randall, thank God, has seemed to pick things up because, we need him to find his game. He is an important piece, and I know he catches a lot of arrows from people, but he's important in what we're doing. He really needed to find his game. Again, the bench coming up, Hartenstein, quickly, it was the ball got distributed. Multiple people contributed. It was a well-balanced affair. The game also in Los Angeles in the second half, that was really nice too. I mean, granted, you're looking at a team right now that's trying to mix together square pegs and round holes right now. They got some stuff they got to figure out. So that's kind of an easy opponent to creep up on, but still very, very talented. So, I mean, I'm optimistic. I was really concerned about the Julius thing last week, but I'm breathing a little bit easier now. Again, we've been talking about offensive rebounding and the importance of offensive rebounding in Mitch, but he also pulled down 4 offensive boards today.
Yes.
So, rolling, man.
Yeah, that was the one thing that I recognized the most, and you see it collectively on the team when Julius brings that energy that made him an all-star. He puts in that effort, and he has that somewhat poise. I mean, I still get a cramp in my stomach whenever he touches the ball, but that's just something I got to get over. I'm in therapy for. What can I tell you? So but in watching those things about him, once he is locked in and he's doing things that he's done to make him, like I said, a 2-time All-Star, 2-time All-NBA under the bright hot lights of Madison Square Garden, this team is definitely a different team because you need all the pieces in New York. We don't have that bona fide stud star that can, is capable of being a Jokic type that can carry a team, et cetera. So what we're seeing now is a collective effort, but we have to have all hands on deck when this comes around. So, our 3 players, our 3 mids or great mids or whatever you want to call them. I mean, they've sarcastically been called other things, clearly. Yeah. It's New York. We're used to the bias, but in the same sense, when looking at what we have as a collective 3-headed monster, when those dudes are pretty tough to actually, manage it as far as a team scheming against them defensively. They're very talented scorers, and I think what's the big difference now is watching R.J. Barrett blossom into that 3rd pick that people were hoping to see. Is he a star stud? Maybe not in the future. We don't know. I don't like putting caps on guys because his work ethic is definitely there. But the thing that I do look at as far as with him is that when he goes and he's shooting at this level, the Knicks are a pretty damn tough team to play against.
Something, when you think about that draft and how much we all agonized over not getting Ja Morant to Zion, if you look at the fact that those 2 guys really don't have the head screwed on and have all sorts of problems, albeit very, very talented, kind of takes a little bit of the sting away winding up with him. I mean, if he's going to continue at this pace, hitting 45 from the field, over 40 from 3, 80% from the line, playing decent defense. That's nice, man. I mean, seeing him flourish is nice.
It's nice. It's a beautiful thing to watch. Anytime you can watch great basketball being played in New York, and definitely when you see one of our homegrowns actually being part of that mix of making us look good, and it's an exciting time, and especially the brand of basketball they played tonight. I was liking, I grew up, I was a big Magic Johnson fan. I always say that, one of my favorite my all-time favorite player in basketball. And I recall those Showtime teams where you watch them flourish, and they were fast breaking. They were sharing the rock, rebounding well. The defensive schemes were good. When you got that brand of basketball, we saw a little bit of it with the Phoenix 7 second or less, just a beautiful brand of basketball. Golden State also. When they whipped that rock around like they did tonight, and everybody got a chance to, to pet the rock. Nobody took the rock home with them. It was petting it by themselves, which is usually the MO for Julius. And, we got a good chance to see these guys play a beautiful system of basketball, hopefully something that they can maintain, throughout.
Trust the pass, Ty.
Trust the pass. You got to – ball moves faster than people. So that's the way you got to look at it.
Yeah. No, I mean,
we might have another guest coming in. Let's see. Do we have a guest coming in? Do we have a surprise? I'm the captain now. If the surprise comes in, let's see.
Is that our traveling man?
I think we have actually a new Kentucky Wildcat from what I hear. Let's see. You got a chance to to pet the rock. Nobody took.
So should I play like Johnny Cash's "I've Been Everywhere" as like a prelude to this?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I guess I don't think he was prepped. Hold on, let's see. We're gonna bring him in.
They like Johnny Cash in the upstate.
Let's see if we can add him in. He might be on that Kentucky bourbon. We'll see. Well, we'll wait.
Wait a minute. Time out. I didn't.
I'm saying, look, don't come on. Don't.
Hold up. I was about to say I'm here, but I was about to message you guys in the chat and say I'm here, but I'm not here because I just wanted to make sure. I wanted to make sure that the something was working because I was watching and I wasn't hearing it. So I wanted to make sure. I just wanted to hop in and check because I'm not sure if the Wi-Fi. I'm at the hotel now, so I'm not sure if the Wi-Fi is going to hold out. So I'm kind of, you never know with hotel Wi-Fi, but
that's
I'll tell you guys I'm watching. I did see the end of the game because it was on ESPN, which was helpful. But yeah, man, I messaged you guys a couple times during the game as well. So yeah, I'm gonna leave though. You guys do your show. I'm not involved. I just want to say hi to everybody. I'm here. I'm just
enjoy your hotel curtains.
Yeah, definitely.
Enjoy your hotel curtains. Those are nice, man. Those are nice.
Right?
Very
hotel
nice.
Curtains. The bed is over there.
Living the life and
do you have a painting of like a beach scene anywhere?
No, I have these. They have these two pictures. It's two different ones, but if you put them together, it would be one big one. So they have that. These two different ones. Yeah, I'm on a work trip in Lexington, Kentucky, guys. I'm gonna try and get over to Rupp Arena before I leave.
Oh, nice.
I was gonna go catch a game if I could have, but they don't play till Friday, and I'll be home before that. I'll be on my way home for that. So I was gonna try and go to a Kentucky game, but I didn't get the chance.
I haven't heard Kevin Knox is doing Uber around there, so
he got signed today. Detroit signed him.
Oh wow, are you serious?
Yeah.
What's that job?
Yeah.
He's not Ubering. He's not making subs at Subway. Professional.
Eat fresh. That's all I can tell you. Eat fresh.
If I could get a meeting with Coach Cal, I'll try. While I'm here, I'll try and see if I can.
Tell him to stop sending us those whack kids.
But I'll tell you this. I don't know if you guys have ever been here, but it's one of the prettiest places. Lexington, Kentucky is very pretty. Very, very nice, pretty place. It's all obviously based around the basketball in Kentucky and horse racing. So there's lots of farms with horse farms and all over the place and thoroughbreds and stuff like that. But it's very, very cool here. So, all right, let me dip out. I don't want to take any more of your time. Hello, everybody. I'll be back next week to discuss more. But Ty, you're doing an excellent job, by the way. I watched the intro. Everything's been great. So have a good show, and I'll keep watching.
We get some Kentucky mules,
my friend.
Little copper cups. That's what we need.
All right, take care.
Be good now. Nice visitation rights right there.
Definitely always.
Always love having family in. That's all good. But we discuss the Knicks seeming collectively to be we love the cohesion. We love where we're seeing games like this in 2 games in a row. Actually, they proved that they were pretty good against a Clippers team that's trying to find themselves still. I mean, we got to give credit to that. Whether we believe in it, I don't believe in that team working. However, teams take a little while to gel, especially when you got so much talent grouped together. But the Knicks did what they were supposed to do, which is what we saw in this game. You're handling the teams that you should be beating. If those teams come in a little, wounded or a little bit confused, being that the Knicks are a team that's, being touted because of their cohesion and the times that they've been together for consecutive years, we should see them come out and stomp a mud hole in the arse of these kind of teams. So it was really nice to see them come out and, basically, handle their business, take care of it early, get it done with, and move on, So kudos to the Knicks. Like I said, a couple outstanding players, obviously, that point, stood out, which was R.J. Barrett, with his consistency, and once again, Mitchell Robinson just being Mitchell Robinson in a very good way. He's proven to be one of those people that are rebounding, the rebounding savant that he is now, and he's holding his own. And Hartenstein, those guys gave this guy, who I'm about to bring up right now, a little bit of agony.
One last thing on the game, though.
Okay,
You mentioned the word cohesion, and I think it was really the perfect word to use because there was a flow with that offense that I have not seen in a very, very long time. It almost seemed like they weren't up by 15, 20, 22 points because they were playing the Spurs. It felt like they would have been up 15, 20, 22 points on anybody. It just felt smooth. That's all I wanted to say. Cohesion was a really good choice word there. I was really enjoying the flow of that game, man.
Yeah.
It looked smooth.
Beautiful basketball. And the Garden was rocking. You could just, like when that ball moves like that and the fans have a reason to cheer. I always tell people in New York, you can be a terrible team, which we've clearly witnessed for decades on end, but the support is there when you're wanting to win. Trying to win, trying to, give people a little bit of play for their money, when you show up at these big ticket games, and I forgot what they said the Wembanyama game was worth as far as the scalping, but it was a pretty expensive front row seat. So, well, we brought up his name, or I brought up his name, I should say, and we're going to talk about Victor Wembanyama's Garden debut. Let me start off first by talking about how there was a lot of hype about him coming into the Garden tonight. Yeah. I mean, ESPN was on that like flies on what, as far as hyping this kid up. They went back, not to even LeBron in this. They went back to the Jordan debut in the Garden, which, he had a spectacular game. I think it was 30-plus points, blah, blah, blah. And they even went as far as to go back the full list. This is what they love about New York basketball and putting the extra knife in our back when it comes to stuff. They went down the list of everybody who's been successful at the Garden during their rookie debuts, from Hakeem Olajuwon, who had an absolute monster game. He was like 35 points, 20 boards in his debut in the Garden, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. So, it was an absurd game. So I think Hakeem was 30. Allen Iverson was 35 in his debut. So King was 30 and 20 plus rebounds, and Allen Iverson had the highest average at 35. But, they brought in this guy. They pulled out the old Jordan clips. His tongue is wagging. He's sweating, the ball head, all the other torturous things that he did to the league. Great one, probably the GOAT. I don't know how anyone can argue about it. But when we move forward, you have Victor Wembanyama, and ESPN had this dude hyped. What is he going to do in the Garden? Blah, blah, blah. And we heard Mitchell Robinson kind of say, well, he's coming into the Garden. And they said, how are you going to guard him? And he basically said, well, I see him as Bol and Kristaps Porzingis. I learned how to navigate around those guys and guarding them. And, boy, ESPN couldn't wait to hear that. They're like, oh, he called Wembanyama Bol. God, how, God forbid you compared him to that. And Knicks fans believe this, but it was Richard Jefferson who came to the defense of Mitchell Robinson saying he actually nailed the description. I've watched some of Wembanyama's games so far in the league. I watched him twice play Phoenix, and the guy. Well, first and foremost, Popovich is doing a great job with this young team. This young team is looking like a San Antonio team from the past. Clearly, they don't have the talent nor the veteran presence. They're not ready for prime time. Just put it that way. But they're a scrappy team. Devin Vassell, excellent player, coming into his own.
He just got a big contract too.
A big contract, and he's really outside of. I think he had some injury in Phoenix. We didn't see that much of him tonight. I didn't even think he was going to play. But needless to say, he has come into the season prepared to earn his keep, with the contract he just signed. So, they came into this game. They got beat by Indiana, I think, pretty handedly. But they've shown that they can compete on a good level if you don't take them serious. I do believe tonight that we did see Mitchell Robinson circle this one. I think you saw Hartenstein circle.
That happened.
And I think you saw Tom Thibodeau circle this and say, oh, really? And maybe the whole Knicks team actually circled and says, not tonight. We're not going to have all these big debuts where we're going to get embarrassed by some rook coming in, stomping the yard, He's stealing people's popcorn, whatever he's doing. I don't know if he's old enough to drink. He might be sipping the Casamigos from one of the patrons. I'm not quite sure, but we got a chance to see him come in. And other than that, people have been, praising him, and, he's the next big thing, or maybe the greatest thing to ever come around. They believe he'll be the GOAT by the time he's done. But I, as I tell my little nephew when I play him in basketball, because you don't win just to win because you're 6. You got to stay competitive. I go, no. I tell him those are called Matumbos. When you come in, you're getting your stuff blocked. So, needless to say, with Wembanyama, I think we saw the Knicks tonight say, no. You're not coming in here having your debut and celebrating on our floor. No matter how great you're going to be great down the line, not tonight. I thought we saw Mitchell Robinson take it personal, like Michael Jordan Last Dance personal. I think we saw Hardenstein take it personal. Even Emmanuel quickly got in and gave him a couple elbows to say, welcome to the league. So, what was your thoughts tonight? I think he ended maybe with like 18 points, I think it was. But, we saw those points come kind of late in the game, nothing spectacular. He had a spin around dunk. Yeah. Everybody was really on him. It was nothing spectacular. But what was your thoughts on the debut of Wembanyama in the Garden tonight?
We didn't see the best of him, and I think Mitch is a tough matchup for him at this point in his career because you can't overpower Mitch. Mitch is stronger than he is. And Mitch doesn't have great speed coming up and down the court, but he's got great lateral movement speed, like all great shot blockers do. And he can cover a lot of ground when Wembanyama is doing his moves and everything like that. Having a backup like Hartenstein, I mean, this was not a good matchup for him. I'll tell you, the kid's incredible. I've watched him play. He's an incredible collection of skills. I mean, just the only thing that can mess him up is injuries. And you mentioned Pop, and I love when Brandon Hubie Brown is 90 years old. Did you know that?
I did know, and it's just incredible hearing him, how sharp he is still.
I know. I want to be that sharp when I'm 90. I mean, I'm not going to be, my wife's going to have to carry me around in a cart because I won't be able to walk by the time I'm 90. But I want to be that sharp if I'm 90. He does look like the Emperor from Star Wars, though. I'm just telling that.
Palpatine. We went to the Palpatine on that.
Seriously. But having them discuss how Popovich said the tremendous sense of responsibility he feels.
Beautiful
having a talent like this, which is really an incredible way to look at it. I mean, the guy is lucky. He'll tell you that he's lucky. He wound up with David Robinson, first overall pick, Hall of Famer. Tim Duncan, first overall pick, Hall of Famer. And this kid comes along, all franchise centers. But this guy isn't a center in the way those other guys are. I mean, he's got an incredible game. I think he's like, he reminds me of Chet Holmgren with a more developed body. Like, he's further along, I think, in the progression of his physical progression.
That's right.
And his just control of his body mechanics and everything like that. He seems really, really ahead of the curve for 19, if being 7'4". I think we're gonna see a lot of this guy, and I think he will come in eventually and rock the Garden because he's that type of player. But yeah, I don't place as much stock as coming in and what people do in their debut in the Garden. I really don't care. I'm more an individual win and loss guy personally, but I could see how it would motivate the team. Again, the Knicks are not a good matchup for him yet. Yet. He'll grow past that eventually. All things being equal without setbacks. I like watching him play. He's fluid.
Yes,
he's like a gazelle out there, man. His jump shot form is incredible. Seems like a mature young man. I mean, there's a lot to like there, but it's before the draft, I'm telling you, I knew like the sun was going to come up tomorrow Like there's going to be a sunrise tomorrow. That kid was going to be a Spur. I knew it.
Yeah. It was in the cards. It was definitely
all last season. I knew he was going to be a Spur, and it's the perfect place for him to be.
Yeah,
Definitely. I wish the man all the success in the world, except when he plays New York.
Yeah, no, don't come up in here with any of that garbage. Take you and your baguettes, French and your fries. I don't know what other. I got to think of some more French food.
Fromage.
Your confit. You take all your confit to the defeat. We don't want none of that up in the garden. Have all the celebration in Brooklyn you want when you come here. Go get your Boston, baked beans. Go get your Philly cheesesteaks. We don't care about that. But the New York pizza, go find your own little edible eats there. We don't want you up in here like that. But what you're saying is all true. Very fluid player. Reminds me of almost like a 7-7 Durant.
Yeah.
With incredible physical attributes and a want to play defense.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, that's really what you look at with him. He's like a huge, fatty, long leg spider, and he's like all over the place. And
do you see him as being a center?
What's that?
Do you see him as being a center?
No, I see him playing like a small forward, power forward, maybe of the Marcus Aldridge type of player. No, I don't want him to be LaMarcus. I don't think he's. Let me not insult the guy. I'm not calling him LaMarcus. Anybody before they even go there, I'm not calling him LaMarcus Aldridge because I didn't like LaMarcus Aldridge. But I'm saying the kind of style he played as that modern four. LaMarcus just didn't bring it like this kid brings it. I just think that I don't know if he can pack on enough weight to ever be that center, like the post center. I just see him playing that wing position, and he just happens to be arguably maybe the tallest wing. He's like Wilt Chamberlain playing wing. That's really what we're looking at. So,
Hubie hit on that too. He was saying if you're going to play him at the 5, you're going to want him to gain weight, but is that going to take away from the quickness?
I think that's a problem.
And is that his best attribute?
Yeah, I see him as a wing. I think he's literally. I mean, we look at Kevin. People forget, like they look at Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's almost 7 feet. I think he's like 7 feet actually.
Yeah,
or 6'11". He's not like a tiny
he
guy.
might as well be 7 feet.
Yeah, and when you watch him, he moves with such a grace. We seen KP when he first came to the Knicks. We saw that player. We're like, wow, I never saw a guy this mobile at that height. That's why he got the unicorn label, because he was able to cross over a dude out on the wing and embarrass people. And he doesn't. And KP doesn't even have the skill set this guy got. He doesn't even have. I mean, I love KP when he was a Knick. I mean, like I said, all the success to you until you come here.
He's still a very good player, but he's not. He doesn't have the skill set Wemby does.
When I look at Wembanyama, because when the one concern was always the weight for me, and I was like, well, I like seeing what he's going to bring. He definitely has the mind for basketball.
Yeah.
I think he's very competitive. It's not like, I don't think he's going to be, I'm not trying to dog French players, but he's not going to be the typical French, stereotype that they're going to come in with a softness or New York softness. Everybody thinks Weiss when they hear French, or they think Ntilikina when they hear French. He's not coming with that, or Gobert or whatever. I think he has a little bit of a understanding of his importance to the game, and I think he's a young, competitive kid. I don't think he's there to take a back seat to anyone, but he's still in a learn position. So, his game is going to develop. He's going to be a special talent, as long as he doesn't get injured. So brace yourself, because this guy is not going to get worse. He's going to get better. And, we could be looking at a Greek freak type athlete if he can bulk up a little bit, or get stronger, I should say. I don't need him to get bigger, but if he gets stronger, we're going to see a hell of a talent in the league.
His frame doesn't look terrible, though. He doesn't look like Holmgren looks frail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's almost like his chest is like in a little bit.
Yeah. The bird went back in the cage.
It's just it's going to take a little bit of time with him.
Yeah,
but he's impressive.
He's impressive.
Played him very well today. I think Mitchell and Hartenstein really deserve a lot of credit for the game that they played today. They really neutralized that kid, and that's I know he's 19, but he's the kind of talent that neutralizing a talent like that is not easy. They deserve a lot of credit.
I think every bit of his 19 on the Knicks, believe you me, I'd be okay with that. When you can get that kind of talent and the ceiling is more up than down, why would you not take that? So hold on to your hats, league. He's not going anywhere. He's got the best coach to actually nurture and cultivate him. The right franchise. They got the right GM that's going to pick players. In fact, when I watched them play against Phoenix, you saw, we talk often about the Miami culture, the Heat culture, whatever. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Just because you come in with body fat, I don't know what the culture is. That's all it is. Some body fat. I mean, what the hell is that? Oh, well, you're an athlete. You should be in shape. Nobody's going to pinch your side to see if you might have had a steak sandwich during lunch. Whatever, Riley. Enough of that.
I'm gonna look forward to seeing the decline of that team. And it's coming.
Please, popcorn's already on the stove as far as I'm concerned.
I can't wait.
All that's old enough to know the Jiffy Pop with aluminum, and you just shook it on the stove.
I'm gonna get a brand new pair of looking glasses to see that happen.
Man, because I get tired of that culture. Oh, bam, out of value. All right, whatever, man. Go to
He's
the.
not.
Go to the.
He's a good player. He's a good player.
Yeah.
He's not a great player. I'm sorry.
It's a lot of putting labels because of Riley. I heard Stephen A. Smith when talking about LeBron. It's like, oh, Riley put his rings on the table. I'm like, are we still telling this lie? Because everybody who's in the know knows that that's not how it actually went down. It was more or less they had planned to join no matter who put rings on the table. So, needless to say, but that's just the craziness. Well,
I think Spo contributed more to that. Spo's a great coach.
He's great. Now, that is the truth, and he proved that last year.
Spo's a great coach.
He's a superior coach. He was named to one of the top coaches all time. And I think, a lot of people, probably including myself, was like, it's high praise because we're old heads. I remember some of those Riley teams and, the Popovich teams and all that. But, when you think about the modern day, Spo's right in there. I take him ahead of probably a guy like Doc Rivers who gets a lot of credit. But I'd take Spo over him any day.
I'd take David over Doc Rivers.
Yeah. You're hoarse because you're whack. Because that's what your coach is. All right, let's move on because I can talk bad about all the other teams anyway. It's always been them. Move on to what's that?
Being a Knicks fan, you can't help it with the Heat. You gotta throw salt and dirt on them any chance you can.
Yeah, anytime you can put salt in that wound, just let it burn. Nobody got a problem. So let's move on to our own team. We're going to talk a little bit about what I call the DEFCON Knicks. We are at a point now early in the season where it's typical of us Knicks fans. I'm guilty of it just as much as anyone else. When discussing the state of the Knicks, which is always a very up and down thing with us. We saw them come around in these last two games looking like the team that we hope would be consistently over the last, they're 8 games now. We were hoping that at least this was the team that showed up. There's a lot of parts that contribute to the demise of the team during certain stretches. I mean, we can first hang it on the fact that the schedule started off with us doing back-to-backs, which leaving Atlanta, going to New Orleans, it wasn't easy for them to do those kind of back-to-back games. And of course you struggled, and that's understandable. There's certain guys, obviously, or a certain guy that we'll discuss also, that may definitely didn't show up at the right time during the season. But when looking over the team, we see a game like tonight. We also got to recognize the opponent, but I would say you play who's on the schedule. So it's not like you can say, oh, they played a bad team. They could still lose to a bad team. We saw the lead start to melt down towards the end. As I'm prepping the show, I'm like, well, dang, will I have to wait? Are they going to go into overtime? Because, the Knicks are capable of imploding down the stretch sometimes. So, we saw a great, we saw them kind of almost winning against Boston in the opening. Brunson was off, Julius Randle was off, but the bench showed up, and they had a chance to win that game. They've been in games. We haven't seen an epic collapse by this team, but I guess the question remains is early on. I mean, we're sitting here, like I said, it's an 82 game. It's got a long season left to go. But how concerned are you as a fan when watching the up and down of the team? Definitely when you know that they are capable of winning, and maybe somehow how they're losing the game sometimes. Right. How concerned are you about the state of the Knicks? If DEFCON 1 was, I'm not worried. The DEFCON 5 is like, oh hit, so to say. Where are you at on that scale between 1 to 5? Are you 1 being less, 5 being emergency?
I was DEFCON 2 last week because I never expected them to start off really strong out of the gate. They're playing a lot of games on the road. They're playing a lot of tougher opponents. The beginning of the schedule is not easy for the Knicks. It was the way Randle was playing. On the one side, I was encouraged from what I was seeing with RJ. Brunson was going to be Brunson. I don't lose any sleep when Brunson has a bad game. Randle, I was worried about. Not because he was missing shots. We've seen him go hot and cold. It's the nature of who he is. You put that stuff out, work the law of averages, and he is a very solid contributor. But it was the way he was playing. It looked like he lost confidence. He didn't have confidence in his shot. He was making bad decisions. He looked really uncomfortable out there. And I got to tell you, Josh Hart, except for one day, I was concerned with that. I'm looking at him like, you got your bag, dude. Like, where's the magic? Where'd the magic go? So I was concerned about those things. I mean, you posted that kind of the us versus them.
Yeah, the Civil War
on the Knicks. And it's true. You have the Villanova guys. You have, possibly Quentin Grimes winding up on that side and Mitch. And these are the guys what you're going to get more or less. And then you get your wild cards that are your Randall, your Quickly, and RJ usually. But RJ has been showing up in Quickly. Yeah, he's still Quickly, but he is not playing like a player who's in a contract year and is trying to get his bag.
Yeah,
he's playing within a team concept. I really like that that's happening. I like how he's approaching the game. I think Randall, again, he's not a great driving player because he's got no vertical. He reminds me of that commercial. I'm forgetting what it was. Where it's like, show me that 2-inch vertical, brother. And the guy just kind of around a little bit. Like, he can't power to the basket and slam home. It's not the player that he is. Yeah. So if the defense collapses on him, he's got to kick it out. Yeah. He's got to make the decision and kick it out to an open hit shooter. And he's doing that more often than he's not. But I remember those first couple of seasons where the defense would just collapse on him and he would just try to power through it and it turning into a mess. So Randall bears watching. I was really hoping that the fans weren't going to turn on him because he's not the kind of dude that is going to help at all. No. I was kind of hoping the fans maybe would rally around him a little bit, give him a little bit of confidence, because last week I did not like what I was seeing at all. So the second half he really pulled out in LA. He had a great second half in LA. He shot 42% from the field today, but again, there was the offensive rebounds, the total rebounds. Yeah. He seemed to contribute more, even though his shot wasn't entirely falling. So I'm not necessarily concerned right now. I think that the Knicks are going to start off relatively slow. I don't think that we're going to see much more than a little over a 500 basketball team for a while, and then I'm thinking they're going to start to get on a run towards the All-Star break. And I think, honestly, I still can kind of see them make a move at the deadline, but we'll wait and see. What I don't want is for them to fall apart and do something stupid.
Exactly.
Desperate. That was one of the concerns I had last week. I'm like, if this whole thing goes south and they feel like they have to make a move because they feel like they have to make a move and they do something stupid, this whole thing could just – So I'm feeling pretty good right now. Last week I wasn't feeling so good, but I'm really not a DEFCON 5 kind of guy as a whole.
Good. You know, I was probably at a 2 when thinking about it. I was maybe creeping towards a 3 when RJ Barrett got injured.
Yeah.
I was very concerned because we've watched basically, you know, Brunson has been a little up and down. I'm never concerned about Jalen Brunson. He just seems like one of those players that no matter if he's had a bad game, I'm just of the belief that it was just him missing more than someone, you know, designing a defense to stop him. I don't look at him as that kind of player. I think he's just too savvy and too smart. And he wants to win. You know, I don't question that about him ever. So I was less concerned when that was happening with him as far as trying to find his rhythm. You know, when I was likened back to when he first came here, he was trying to find his way through the system also. He had to play out about a month of coming a Knick, and then all of a sudden you watched him blossom, and then he became the special talent that we all cheer for now. So never concerned with him. But I was very concerned when RJ's, you know, went down there like, well, they had no timetable on the knee. And I'm like, this plus Brunson trying to find his, you know, his groove back. And then, you know, the alien that is Julius coming in, you know, his spaceship. We're not quite sure if he's doing the walk from automatic matter. We don't know. He got the Vulcan grip. We had no clue what was going on with Julius Randle as it pertains to the kind of basketball player that we were watching unfold this season. You know, we've had the every other year Randle. That's literally it's been with him. So my concern was a 2, probably 2.5, creeping towards a 3, because if RJ was out an extended amount of time, I just figured, I said, with how I'm watching the Quentin Grimes, you know, we're not seeing anything from him, you know, spectacular right now. You know, I just didn't know, you know, Quickly's been pretty solid. You know, I always thought he was very sporadic, but then watching him in the games, he's come in and done the things he's supposed to do. And I think he's been more poised than he has in past seasons. I watch him come out, and I'm less nervous watching him operate. There's sometimes I could, you know, reach through the TV like the Matrix, but, you know, I find myself not complaining about him as much as I do, you know, the other guy in the room, which is Julius. But, I was at about a 2.5. Thank God RJ, you know, only needed a little bit of rest. We've learned that his injury is going to be something. Well, it's not really an injury. It's more of a nagging pain, I guess, so to say.
Patellar tendinopathy. It's basically irritation of his patellar tendon. I think it's the clinical diagnosis of what they're talking about.
That definitely
it's
sounds
no use injury.
Yeah. So he's just basically saying he's going to toughen it out. I talked to someone else on another thread. Shout out to Jason Brown. I was talking to him, and that was one of the funniest things. I told him, I said, well, look, a lot of the Knicks players need their knees to have issues because he's been absolutely balling out of control. I mean, we're watching this guy operate. And I'm like, well, damn, what would happen if he had 2 good knees? Because if this is on a 1 knee with slight pain, and he's the most efficient Knick probably right now. I don't know. I'm not a stat nerd as far as when it comes to the analytics, but you know, this dude, when he's just been so locked in, hitting all the shots that we usually cringe watching him take sometimes. His decision making has just been very sharp. He's one of those guys that benefited so much from playing off-season basketball. You know, system basketball with Canada, his confidence level is extremely high. Like when I watch him shoot the 3 now, I'm like, that's going in. As opposed to in the prior seasons, I'm like, I don't know. I think you might want to just dribble that ball in but a little bit closer. But we've seen him have a shooter's touch. I think that's what we're noticing about him. His touch is there.
He's in rhythm.
Yeah, he's in rhythm. He's hit his stride. I mean, usually they want to say that players in their third year, which I don't always buy that. They go, "Oh, players in their third year, it's usually going to take."
There's no formula for this.
Yes, it's no formula. Some dudes come out, they're just spectacular from the beginning. When you look at, most people might look at a guy like Michael Jordan. They forget Michael Jordan played 2 years of college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Really, the guy that's outstanding is LeBron, being that he came out of high school, and we've never seen really him not be as great or one of the better players on the floor. We didn't have to watch the growing pains of him per se, other than when it came time to winning big. That's when we saw him struggle the most for a little bit. Well, we didn't get a chance to fully see it because he clearly joined the Super Friends. But he was one of the few talents that we've seen come into the league and not need a lot, and was able to compete at a high level early. But R.J. Barrett in his fifth year, where people forget he was like 19, I think, when we got him, or 18. He was one of the youngest guys and the youngest players in the league. So we're watching a guy in his 20s starting to get it. That's really what it is. When you draft young players, same thing when guys were coming out of high school. They got to look at Kobe Bryant, rest in peace to him. Kobe was not Kobe when he came in. It took Kobe years.
Most definitely not.
I don't think nobody had a better work ethic, better desire, better hunger. He wanted to be the assassin. We saw that in Utah. He shot 2 air balls, and he was like, well, I'm supposed to shoot those, and he really had that grit and grind. So when you look at a guy like RJ, who's nowhere near that kind of talent level, I think New York has to learn about being patient, because imagine this guy was thrown in, as a throw-in, and look where we are now with him. You got to give him time to develop, and also recognize sometimes there's outliers of situations, like our coaching, who you're playing next to, do you have a point guard, what kind of system you're playing in. I think we're seeing that now with more of the IQ of the players on the Knicks, that RJ's also looking better too, because those Villanova dudes are not dumb. They play very smart, keen basketball. And liking back to the Civil War thing, where smart basketball versus not smart basketball, the collective IQ on this team is a lot better with those Villanova guys. There's no doubt about that. So, they know where to get, the ball in the right place. They know how to cut. They know how to about spacing. They're smart and they're tenacious. So we're starting to see that. So, I think the Knicks are balancing it out pretty well from what we're seeing now.
One thing that was really interesting about RJ, one of the things I was nailing on him last year was the way he came out in the beginning of the season. He was just not there. His game was not there. He just basically sleepwalked through the first quarter of the season, essentially. And what he said in one of the interviews, they were talking about him on an unrelated subject, but he brought up that he didn't play much basketball the preceding summer because of his contract situation. I don't know whether that was something that his agents had talked him into, or this or that, or everything like that. But you're seeing right now what that full summer of basketball is. Maybe that caught up with the learning that he has right now, because I'm seeing a fully developed player right now. A player that can take you off the dribble, guy that can take it to the hole, get to the free throw line, hit his free throw lines, and he's hitting threes, man, like really hitting threes. This is what you need out of a wing player, and we're seeing it come to fruition. It's very exciting.
Yes. For so many years, the Knicks have talked about needing we've needed more wings than Buffalo Wild Wings needs during Super Bowl. We've been needing a wing for a long, darn time.
It's a wings league now. It used to be a centers league. It used to be a point guards league. Now it's a wings league.
Wings league, and when you don't have that kind of or type of talent, well, you can look at how well the Knicks are playing with a guy like RJ now that he's blossoming, because he's offering that dynamic that makes teams run better. Julius Randle was being utilized like a wing, but that was more Buffalo than wing. That's what I'm gonna tell you, because it was definitely not conducive to great team play. But to watch him as a slasher, I watched his snake dribbles during tonight's game, I should say. He's just putting it together, and it's a beautiful thing to watch in New York. To see one of our homegrowns start to get it. They're starting to get it physically, mentally. He's going to be a tough cover if he stays relatively healthy this season. I think the Knicks really go as he goes as far as setting the table. I think he's a table setter right now for the Knicks. That Julius was prior last year. He was a first quarter setter, where he came out in the first quarter and just set the tone. I think we're starting to see RJ come in, and it's like, this guy can't guard me. And if he tries to guard me, I'm going to find you guys that's open. And he found some good passes tonight. He's looking – because he has a high IQ. I don't think that he has a low IQ when it comes to basketball, but I think he's using the noodle and playing basketball now, because I think he was thinking, I would say he thinks he's, way more athletic than he is. And I think we're seeing a guy now go, okay, my game is the power game and the finish game, and I need to go knock these down at the free throw. We're going to argue about what he's doing now. It's absolutely great basketball.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Definitely. Shout out to RJ. Let's move on a little bit. We're going to transition into a little bit of what we were talking about as far as this dude who I'm like beyond tired of talking about, to be very honest, but it's a Knick basketball. I can't see my Thanos don't work. Can't snap him away. It's inevitable. He's literally Thanos inevitable. He's got to become part of the conversation. We've been dealing with the good, the bad, and the Julius, basically, is the best way of saying it, because when watching this guy, he's just the most polarizing figure on the Knicks that I've ever witnessed. When I think about, we found people like Stephon Marbury, where, people talked about Steph in a little bit of the light of being difficult to understand. His teammates talked about him being difficult. We know about the Vaseline commercials he did, on his own spare time, no endorsement deal. He just started eating Vaseline. So we've dealt with the conundrum of certain players just being flat out weird and hard to deal with. I don't know. With Julius, I don't know so much as that he's hard to deal with as a person. I always tell people I think he's a great guy. It looks like he's a nice person. I mean, he fills all the boxes of what kind of athlete you'd want in New York. He's a father. You can probably send him out to all the seminars with the kids and talk to them about great life. He's a charitable guy. I mean, he checks all the boxes outside of the one key box that we talk about in New York all the time, which is the temperament to play in these markets. I don't care if it's football, basketball, baseball, whatever. When you play in New York, you got to have a certain skin, as I like to call it, the rhino skin. You got to have that rhino skin that no matter what lands on you, you keep moving, and you keep drilling ahead. And I think that's the thing that we look for in him that we can never seem to find full time. We saw even tonight. There's times where he went back to the referee complaining. We hadn't saw that for 7 games. We're like, we're getting away with that this year. He's like, no. I'm going to break out the referee. I got fouled. And I was like, is he going to let it go? And he looked like he took a little minute, but he ended up letting it go. But I tend to get worried watching him sometimes, because we never know what dude is going to show up. What we've seen in the last couple of games have been, definitely inspiring me to believe that maybe this is him moving forward. There was an article in the Post talking much like you were talking about, like, cheering for the guy, because they too were worried about his mental state and wanting to hug. Not all New Yorkers believe in the hug thing. They like, take that hug somewhere else, just play better. It was weird because when I liken back to when myself and Eric talked about Julius early on, the thing we were worried about was the mental state of Julius, because we were watching the games and his approach seemed a little bit off. I didn't know if it was him, being zenful and thinking that, let the game come to me. But then it was people were pointing out they felt he was doing selfish things on the floor, which I'm like, I personally didn't see that initially. until it was like pointed out that, he's basically going solo. And I'm like, wow, I didn't notice that about him. I thought he was being a little too passive sometimes. Or just, like I said, doing the Zen thing and letting the game come to him. But I don't know. I mean, he's here. I don't think he's tradable at this point. I don't think he will be traded. I guess my biggest question is that as much as we look at a guy like Julius and, we might want him gone, is he in fact really the problem? And what I mean by that is we know he creates a problem. But should we now look at the real king of Gotham? And anybody who knows who runs Gotham is the Penguin. He ain't Batman. Batman's fighting off all the crime. The underground and underworld belongs to the Penguin. So Thibodeau Cobblepot is what we need to be talking about. Are we to be mad at Julius this long and campaigning to have him moved? Or should the light actually shine on Cobblepot, Thibodeau, who has yet to really rein him in and check him? We heard a little bit in post games where he's talked about, guys can't go into the lane. This was after the Milwaukee game. There's 2 7-footers in there. You got to pass the ball out. They're the rock. He's doing all this gravelly talk. But we know who he was talking about. My thing is this: why are you not telling him that when you're in the locker room and when you're talking to your team, that if you don't make better choices on the floor, we may have to sub you out during the game. So you need to get your game together. I always think that there's a way of delivering a message that doesn't require you to be mean-spirited. You can give constructive criticism. But ultimately, when you think about the lineups and the rotations, that dude controls everything. So is this a Julius issue or is this a disciplinarian issue by the actual leader of the Knicks, Tom Thibodeau? What is your thoughts on that?
Okay, so that's really kind of a second topic. I didn't really get to respond to the first topic, so I want to go back to Julius and isolation. All right. This is where we differ. This is where I differ from Eric. Personally, I've been more of a supporter of Julius. I know that along with a lot of other Knicks fans, there's a thing of we shouldn't have signed him.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
Okay, so who was taking his place? Who was going to come here?
Mm-hmm.
Our team was a laughing stock, a joke. The guy at least came here and took on the challenge, so he needs credit for that. No one else was coming to take his place. It's not like, with the money that we had tied up into him, we could have had Kevin Durant. It's crazy. Second of all, there has been a crater in this franchise for a franchise player for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And the Knicks fans unfairly have tried to stuff him in that hole. And that happened. And that is not fair. I'm sorry. He's not that player. He's never been that player. But he's been a damn good player who has outperformed his contract.
Mm-hmm.
We have pulled ourselves out of a state of being a laughingstock that is maybe only paralleled by the Donald Sterling Clippers.
Yeah, that's true.
And 3 people are primarily responsible for that. Rose has made some good decisions.
Mm-hmm.
He's done more good than bad.
Yeah.
He's done some bad. He should have taken Tyrese Halliburton, and I'll always kind of hate him for that.
Mm-hmm.
The problem wasn't starting Randall over him. It was we should have never ever taken.
Yeah.
Anyway. Secondly, Thibodeau. Mm-hmm. And, I think we should move on from him, but he has pulled us out of the crater, and Randall pulled us out of the crater.
Mm-hmm.
Brunson came later on. Like it or not, Randall, until Brunson came, was the best player to wear this jersey since Melo.
Yeah.
And that could be – a lot could be said about the state of the franchise and this and that. Now he's still our second best player. I know that we have – RJ coming into his own, and I hope he becomes our second best player, but I'm just not ready to crucify the guy. He's just not a star. He's a damn good player.
Mm-hmm.
We want him to be the star, which is the biggest problem I think most people have with Randall. It's the fans' perception of what he should be rather than what he is and what he's contributed. So that's Randall. He's not that player. He will never be that player.
I agree.
Cobblepot, his problem has been he knows that Julius is fragile. Mm-hmm. He's got a fragile psyche. We all know it.
Yeah.
We all know he does. Everybody does.
Yeah.
So he has not held him accountable in the way that other players have held him accountable. We talked about this the last week when, Brunson came in and started talking, and the first thing he did was turn his back to him and brush him kind of away. Accountability is an act of maturity. It's something that you grow into as a man, and you develop into somebody that becomes accountable of themselves. Mm-hmm. Children are generally not accountable.
Nope.
Right? So I think it is a problem with him. I'm on two sides of the fence. I know that we're going to move on from Randall at some point.
Mm-hmm.
He's not the answer. And Cobblepot, again, we're going to have to move on sometime down the road because he's not the answer either.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still grateful to the both of them.
That's fair.
Because that transition into a respectable franchise had to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Anything good to follow, and they are responsible for that. So, again, that's my thoughts on the situation. I want to explain why maybe I'm not burying the guy or how I see him really.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a star.
No.
He's been good for us, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's the thing about it. I think when Julius first got signed here, I was okay about him being signed here. When the Durant thing fell apart and the Kyrie Irving thing fell apart, one of the things happened was I know Julius Randle was having a very solid year, a couple of years in New Orleans. He was playing really good. And his work ethic, we heard about that. He always comes in phenomenal shape. So when the Knicks, this was their B plan. I don't know if it really was a B plan. I just think it was like herb and scramble before we like idiots plan. But that was not the worst consolation prize, getting a young talent in here that you hopefully believe in his, the things he's done, which he has done when you think about it.
Yeah.
His work ethic has been, on par. He shows up for work, shows up in great shape. He has great output. Dude's, like I said, two-time All-Star, two-time All-NBA. When you think about that kind of signing, there's not much to really argue about because those things are what you want out of a person you signed in free agency. You signed a guy who was top 15 in the league. That's basically what it is. The issue has been a little bit the consistency every year being a top 15 player. But we can't think of any time in recent history where we've had a player that's been all NBA, other than we knew Melo was an all NBA player.
And the fans are starving for it too.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Our fan base. I think the thing about it, Julius is a little victimized by expectations of a starving franchise, fan base that was waiting for someone to come here and literally save us. I mean, when we hear Durant, that was one of the reasons he said he didn't come. He didn't want to save a franchise. Mm-hmm. Julius on his back. I think he loves the atmosphere of being in New York. He played in LA, a little bit different, obviously, the gritty griminess, but still the expectations are high in LA. Their championship or nothing. So it wasn't like he played in a market before that he's not recognizing the expectations. But LA has, I don't think it's worse or, like New York is less ravenous. It's just maybe the way we go about doing it.
It's harder to be a Knick than a Laker. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, well, they've won. They've won. You're in.
For exactly that reason.
I'm the bad luck charm, as I always say. I'm 50, and we haven't won since I was born. So just think about along those lines of, how long it's been, and the suffering New York fans have. So I think in a lot of degrees, when you look at, it's sort of like with Melo. People wanted Melo to be LeBron, and we know Melo was never LeBron.
LeBron.
He was not going to be that type of talent. Was he capable of being it? Absolutely, but he was a scorer. He's a elite scorer. That's what he was. Same thing with Julius. When you look at him coming in, he's a little bit of a throwback player. He's got the numbers to back up his success in New York. The problem is that once you start becoming successful, then the expectations rise. And in this market, it becomes like a typhoon, literally, because you're like, oh, he can play? Well, how good can he play? Oh, can we win something now with him? So now it levels up to each year. So that 1 year of success under Tom Thibodeau kind of rushed the process, so to say. We got it out of the bubble. And I was like, oh, let's run it back because we got to get back to the playoffs. And it's like, probably not that team really at that point. We're probably what we're seeing now as the Knicks is the team that's most consistent to move forward with, as opposed to that Nerlens Noel and those other people they re-signed. So those expectations got thrusted upon Julius. And the minute that I saw the Atlanta game, everybody knows infamously, I said, he's not that dude. But the Knicks made him that dude. Unfairly, in my opinion, putting that
the fans made him.
Yeah, and then
because they didn't pay him like he was that guy.
Oh, I agree with that. They didn't pay him. He gave a discount.
The fans turned him into that. The Knicks never said this is our savior.
Yep.
This is our franchise guy. They never said that.
Nope, they never said that. But
the fans turned him into that.
The fan base looked at that and was like, "Oh, now that they." I think the other thing too. I think what does not help the situation a little bit with Randall is the lack of Leon Rose actually addressing the fan media, saying, hey, you know what? We had a wonderful year. Yeah. And what we're trying to do is we're not trying to put the cart before the horse. We love the success we have, but we're looking to build something more sustainable down the line. We want to be a young, aggressive team and opportunistic when it comes time to maybe sign a free agent. These are things that he should have said, because then the fans will hear the plan. No. But when the plan becomes put it in front of the coaches, put the mic in front of the coach, and don't say nothing to anybody else other than Mike Breen, and a little smidget of a conversation on Wi-Fi, and then move forward. And it's like, well, is Julius the guy? So you gave too much interpretation about the direction of the franchise.
You're absolutely right. The Knicks media policy has increased the scrutiny on the players.
Yep.
Because nobody knows anything. All there is room for speculation.
Yep.
And that's when I love what Craig uses this word. That's when hyperbole just kind of pops out from the fans and the media and all of that stuff. And it's just kind of, he's it's funny that you mentioned it. You mentioned this last week, I believe. You were talking about him as a sixth man. And initially I was like, he's better than that, thinking in my head. But now thinking strategically, you're kind of right. Because he needs the rock. He needs the offense to go through him. He needs to remain in flow. He's not going to be a fourth option on a starting five and be effective. He needs to eat, and he can do that on the second tier. So I initially didn't agree with what you were saying, but I think more now that I've had some time to kind of chew on it, you're right. He would be able to feed on the second string of a championship team. He'd be able to spearhead that second.
Imagine he's on a team like, I don't think they're championship level yet, but imagine a team like we talk about with Memphis being an issue, because they don't have a scoring. Imagine you could do the starting five with those guys if everybody's healthy. And Julius Randle's coming off your bench.
Mm-hmm. And still getting like 30 minutes a game, 32 minutes a game, playing some with the starters, but primarily off the bench.
Memphis becomes the greatest headache to fight against. You've got a superstar in John Morant in the starting lineup. You got defensive guy like I like the defensive people they put around him. Marcus Smart, Triple J. Those dudes are, they're dogs, on defense, but they do lack a potent scorer. So think about if those guys are willing to play defense with a guy like Julius and let him score. Like they're like, we got all the dirty work. It's sort of like the AI, in Philly with Larry Brown. He put a bunch of scrappers around him and said, you go eat the points. These dudes are willing to do the dirty work. Just imagine the tier of how tough that would be to guard Memphis. If you got Ja in the first lineup and you're bringing in Julius with the support of guys who don't want the rock.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've changed the dynamic of that team that needs a potent scorer just to complement Ja.
And for a potent scorer, he's also a willing distributor, so it would keep those other guys engaged in the offense.
Yep. And I think with him in that kind of role takes he gets to sit back and play his game. Like he's not trying to win a championship for New York. Because I think in his mind, I think that's what he believes he needs to do. And this is not a championship team by any stretch of the imagination. And it may not be while he's here. What we're seeing and projecting is the hope that there might be a star talent that wants to come here that will help our position in trying to win a title, which is still a far-fetched theory because we still don't know where that star is going to come from.
I don't see a path to that right now.
I don't either.
But that doesn't mean that all of this is for nothing.
Yeah, agree.
Again, winning is important.
Mm-hmm.
Undoing our history, our long, disastrous history, undoing that and changing the perception of the franchise is very important. Because having that person come, that changes the entire calculus of what we're doing in the NBA and what our chances are. That's going to depend on players' perception of the team and their chances to win. And again, we are not winning championships right now, but we are doing important work in that area.
Oh yeah. I agree with you. I think the thing that the Knicks have, everything but the star. See, that's the thing which is important in this league.
Coach.
I think the problem is in this league is that there's not, like we saw with Wembanyama tonight. There's some talent coming in, but I reserve that superstar level of label, I should say. There's very few of those. Those special guys that when you put them on the floor, they vulture. And unfortunately, LeBron is still one of those guys in the league. And that to me is the crazy part because the league lacks – it's Jokic and LeBron are the guys that when you put them on the floor, you're like, they probably going to win the whole damn thing if they got the right talent around because their individual skill set, it's not just physical, it's IQ. They have a high level IQ for basketball. Yeah. So they're finding ways of winning where in the thing with Jokic is not even – he still looks out of shape to me. He's still the best player in the league. I look at him, I'm like, this dude look like he's still going to Whataburger or whatever it is.
You're gonna see him 3 years after he retires, and he's gonna look like Grimace from McDonald's. He's naturally fat.
Yeah,
he's like that's in his cells.
Yeah, he's got some insulation about him. I'm telling you.
No, seriously. But the thing with LeBron, I agree. He is still an incredibly potent, very cerebral player and all of that. But I don't know if he's still in that category because LA has pieces.
Yeah.
LA does not have a bad roster at all.
No.
But I don't see them making noise in the West at all.
I don't buy the hype train. And when I say that about him being a superstar, I'm just saying that his supposed impact when the league talks about superstars, he's still one of those guys that has that impact on his team. I shouldn't call him like I don't think
No,
he's one of the players.
there's some truth to that, definitely, but
He
not
has,
as much as it was 3 years ago.
yeah. He can't take over games anymore. He can take over time, but
Yeah.
the years of carrying a team, he's not capable of that. We're seeing a little bit of it with Durant too. When you look at Kevin Durant, as talented as he is for the last couple of years, you've seen it in his series against Boston a couple of years ago. You've seen it even in Milwaukee, the Milwaukee series. There was the foot on the line. Usually, though, that KD is sending you home packing. So we've seen his vulnerability. Not that I wouldn't take that vulnerability on our team, clearly, because he's still one of the elite talents in the league. But those guys are not carrying teams like they once did because they're not capable. And I don't. Who's that?
I know he's on a new team, but you might be seeing that with Dame too.
Yep. Dame, the time is up. Because I'm looking at him, I'm like,
he's got a grace period because he's on a new team, but the Dame I'm seeing right now doesn't even look like the Dame from last year.
Well, you know what? It's definitely the father time shadow boxing with you, and it's also you're taking him out of his element. Now you. I told Eric, I said, and I'm a big Dame fan. I always loved his game.
So am I.
I wish he was a Knick, when he was in his heightened career. A lot of people thought that might happen. But I told Eric this thing about him. I said, there's a lot of pressure on Dame Lillard right now because this is before, once we learned that he was going to Milwaukee, I said, now you have no excuse. Like you had really C.J. McCollum, who I like, is a decent player. I always liked him too. I used to follow Portland. That's one of the other teams I follow a lot. And I'm like, well, you're now in what is the driver's seat. See, Dame Lillard's an underdog type player. He's an underdog. His whole career has been about the underdog element. He went to Weber State. He comes in, not a lot of hype. He put Portland on the map. He's always been that dog. Well, you don't need to be a dog on this team because clearly you got the biggest dog in Giannis right now. Now it's about, do you have championship DNA? Can your style of play position you to win a title? And we're seeing the struggles now because he needs to be literally more of a point guard. You're putting him at the point, he can't be a two guard anymore. He can't be a combo guard. He's got to be a guy say, hey, I'm going to take the ball and you go here and go there. And that's something he's not naturally good at. So you're starting to see where Drew Holiday, people didn't believe it when the trade happened, he was probably a better fit for a guy like Giannis who needs the ball to be very productive and be special. And, he's learning now. Miami probably was a better place for him to go because that's where he wanted to go because the fit would have been better because you just had to be an off guard and kill from distance. So you'd have been great in there. But, yeah, the league does not have, to me, a lot of stars, superstars. They got stars, but not a lot of superstars. So, we're starting to see that catch up. But the Knicks are, thinking about, with Julius, and like we talked about him, the expectations need to be a little bit lower because he's not that guy. And,
no, he's not.
He's
never that guy. He was never going to be that guy.
He's never that guy. And there's a lot of guys that are not that guy. And it's okay. It just so happens that he's in New York. We're watching the expectations grow after last season. You get into the second round. I say people need to pump their brakes a little bit this season. We had a special year last year.
Yeah.
I think if you're looking for those same results, I think you might be setting yourself up for failure because I think you need to realistically say this team is either a first round exit or a second round getter.
I think we're going to win more regular season games, but I think we're a second round exit too. I don't think our chance of going. You were absolutely right. Last year was a shot.
It was a shot.
Last year was a shot if we were going to.
I'm so mad about this. You have no idea. You bringing it up. I'm having agita. It was our shot last year. Everything broke right. Milwaukee was gone. You only had to beat Miami, and then
Miami was beatable too.
Limitations of the coach and the roster.
I still think we caught them at the wrong time. We should probably end with this because it's just going to make me angry. But they shot beyond their capabilities in that series.
Absolutely.
They just hit a moonbeam, man, and pixie dust and everything, and it just straight up. If we had played that series again afterwards, I think we would have won that series.
We would have won it. We would have definitely won it.
They just hit at the right time.
Yeah, it was definitely a lightning in a bottle moment for them, because when you look at guys like was it Gabe Vincent? Now he's in LA. It took him like 6 games to hit 1 3-point shot for the season.
Gross and Strus and some of those other guys. Like, dude, nothing for nothing. A lot of these guys are going to be career clowns. I mean, they had their time in the sun against our team, and they shot the lights out, and they're never going to do it again. Then that's going to be their career highlight. Anyway, I'm bitter about it. I'm a little bitter.
They're in the Sidney Dean category. He says even the sun shines on a dog's ass every once in a while. Well, that's literally what we saw with that team. You know, the sun was shining on a dog's ass once, and that's literally what ended up happening in that series. And I'm still like so much like you, bitter looking at that. You're like we were.
Yeah.
We're
poised. We were playing well.
Brunson's turnover, which I'll never kill him for. I know a lot of people like, I didn't kill him for it, because I'm like, we are not even in the position to be worried about your turnover without your play. It was just the fact that I'm like, when that pass happened, I'm like, oh damn. You see it coming. I'm like, oh damn. This is once he committed to that, I'm like, oh damn, we're about to go home. And but last year was the shot. We got to hope that what we're seeing from maybe some of these teams, maybe there's injuries involved, maybe there's turmoil inside the locker that may change the dynamic. I don't know if I'm buying the Milwaukee dynamic yet. When looking at it, you know, they faced some difficulties last year. You know, Giannis couldn't hit free throws. I always think that's the one kryptonite you can always rely on. And their defense is absolutely towards the bottom now. Went from being elite to, I think, the 25th in the league. I might be different now. As far as the ranking, they are a terrible defensive team now.
Drew's an impactful defensive player.
Yes.
They lost that and replaced it with somebody that is not an impactful defensive player at all.
And when you look at Milwaukee, how the Knicks played Milwaukee, like the Knicks played Milwaukee very good. We fell short. But never has there been a time where the Knicks actually were competitive in a Milwaukee series due to Drew Holiday. And the defense of Milwaukee always gave us problems because of the length of the play.
We match up much better with this team.
So I'm less worried about them as I would have been worried 2 years ago or 3 years ago playing them, and they always seem to beat us. You know, really, it comes down to Philly and their success and Boston's. But we played Boston tough. We lost to Boston because Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle had probably the worst games of their career as a Knick. So I don't know. We just needed to break right. It's just it's scrappy. I just worry about our height. That is my greatest concern about this team is the height of the Knicks. Because I watched Josh Hart look not like Josh Hart no more because he's trying to get those rebounds. I forgot the guy who was playing against tonight. Basil, I think it was his name was Bassie or something like that. And that dude was just like, give me the ball. You're too short. And I'm like, that's going to be a problem down the line.
All right, man.
All right, so we got out of all Knick misery. We can always circle back around to misery with the Knicks, but this was a good night tonight. We did celebrate a good win by our New York Knickerbockers. We definitely came in, showed up, and showed out, as we say. You got to love that about them. Hopefully, we can carry on the success. I don't know who's up next for us on the schedule. Got to take a look at that, but I don't know. Do you have a clue?
Pull that up. We keep going. I'll bring it up.
Yeah, whoever we're facing, hopefully.
Hornets. Definitely beatable.
Definitely a winnable
game. New game.
I'm sorry. We're playing in Charlotte or we're playing in New York? Oh, I think there's a home stand, Sam.
Yeah.
I think we're in a home stretch for a few games. So we're looking at that. Just got to basically watch LaMelo. That's the guy right now that can't let the rook come in.
I think he's overrated.
Yeah, I'm not a big. I thought if you knew my thoughts of him before, I think we were all on the same thread. I was never buying the hype. I know he has such flash and flair for the game, but I don't.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I'll take substance over flash and flair any day.
Yeah. Our team is gritty. I mean, that's the one thing I will say when watching them, the deflections, getting up in, to the people's, to the players' spaces and just frustrating guys because we do play defense. One of the few teams in the league that plays
We're
real.
the second best defense in the league right now.
Yep. We play some defense, and it's a shock to the rest of the league when they have to face us because they're like, nobody does that anymore. So that's the one advantage the Knicks have. If we can always score enough points, the Knicks can be a pain in where when it comes to teams wanting to not face us in a series where look at Wembanyama tonight. He has never been frustrated in any of the games that I've watched until tonight, where he tried to slap quickly because they were being annoying. They were being physical with him, and he didn't like that.
And we're the second best defense in the league with two poor individual defenders in the starting lineup.
Wow.
That'll show you what the impact of some of these guys are having. But something I'm just thinking right now. I think that whole we missed our shot thing was just being angry at how last season broke. We don't know what this season's going to be like. We don't know what's going to happen in Philly.
Yep.
Injuries can happen. We can cook at the right time. We can make a good move. That's the beautiful thing about where we are in basketball right now, Ty, is there are possibilities.
Yeah, that's true.
We haven't smelled possibilities in a long time, man. We look at this team and we're like, if we're breaking right at the right time and we catch a good matchup, man, we could smack that. We can get out of the second round depending on who we wind up with. If we're healthy, particularly. So we don't know. I think last year sucked. I think you and I both saw that. I think Eric saw it too. Like, hey, there's a path here, man.
Oh yeah. And maybe the Knicks players see the same thing that we're talking about. Looking at last year, realizing that there was a big, huge opportunity.
Yeah.
To get to the Eastern Conference Finals, and then you just throw it up to between you and Boston. I think that would have been a hell of a series.
Yeah.
There's not the team that I was the most worried about has really been neutralized in a lot of ways, and that was Milwaukee. Yeah. That was the one team that I said, oh, they would give us a problem. But then watching two games in which our best players were not great at all. They were absolutely
we don't match up good with Philly either.
What's that?
We don't match up good with Philly either. We match up better with Boston than we do with Philly, in my opinion.
And I think we now match up better with Milwaukee, given what I've looked at, after the game where we were terrible. Philly is the one team now, because of Embiid, because of Tyrese Maxey, that you look at them and you go, do we have an answer on it? Well, maybe we can say, throw Maxey out of it. Do we have an answer for Embiid? And that's where the question becomes a big problem, because he can get your centers in foul trouble. And a lot of what we do is with those fives.
He can neutralize our strongest.
Yep, because our centers are, people don't maybe want to know it, but the practice of the Knicks.
Our offensive rebounding is basically the most important part of our offense.
Yeah,
it's not the free ball. It's not.
Yeah.
It's offensive rebounding.
It's Mitchell Robinson has become. Oh, that's the last thing I'll put up, actually, as per what's his name? The Inferno, I call him Dante's Inferno now. Mitchell Robinson being a true professional. He credited Mitch with what he brings to the table and his sacrifices for the game, for the team. And I thought that was a beautiful thing to talk about, because right now we're watching him. I think he's averaging like 14, 15 boards on the season. So he's
probably the most boards per minute of anybody in the NBA, because he's not playing Probably as high minutes. He's probably got the highest rebound per minute ratio.
He has to
in the NBA.
He's developed into something that is a big part of what Thibodeau wants to do, and it's a big part of what the team needs. So yeah, when thinking about what he brings, he's a big linchpin right now for this team. Philly, like I said, is the one team that if they have their act together, that can give us a problem. But everyone else, to me, it's a toss-up. Boston has always been played tough by the Knicks. Milwaukee now, we know they've been a little bit neutralized. Yeah, we have a good shot at anything. We just got to stay consistent and be.
There's possibilities, man.
Yeah, and then let the. Hey, there's 2 seasons in NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Regular season, and then it goes back to 0 once you get into the playoffs. So,
yep,
everybody's game. You just got to hope that the coach and the players adjust. But I like Jalen Brunson in any series because of what we saw. He broke down Miami's defense, and that to me was huge. If he unlocked that, I just think that the sky's the limit with him. He will only lose if he beats himself. Well, look, let us start wrapping this up.
Yeah.
So everybody knows we have our
day jobs.
Day jobs, and we would love to get paid by the Knicks, but we do this for free, unfortunately, because the insane asylum just let us out and gives us Wi-Fi, so which is absolutely insane. The whole time I'm thinking today while working, like, oh, come home and maybe talk about them losing. I was like, please don't let this happen. So, it's how the fan base thinks around here, but let us know, Joe, Upstate Joe. Tell them where they can find you.
Okay, you can find me at Upstate Joe, AKU for all nicked up, on the X, and you can find me on the fan page. Reach out anytime. And again, folks, remember, possibilities, baby. Sweet, sweet, sweet possibilities. That's where we are right now. We may not be on top of the mountain, but we got mountain climbing gear.
Preach that, bro. Preach that. Preach it. I'm a little hip hopper. I always say, what's the song that said? New York, New York, big city of dreams. Everything's in New York. Not what it seems. If I get fooled from coming out of town, we down by law. We in New York, baby. All possibilities and dreams come true here. Sinatra sings a song about New York. Anything can happen here. So we definitely are putting the juju forward for the real Jew. Julius Randle.
Julius.
We're trying to. We're going to give him the hug that he wants. So you keep playing like this, I'll hug you.
He needs a hug.
I'll come hug you if you play like this. But a good win tonight, and hopefully some good luck moving forward. You can find me at our All Nicked Up page on Facebook. You can also find me Junior Scribble on the X Gonna Give It To You channel. Basically, shout out to all the contributors on our fan page. Jason Brown, June 1, Bob Greenberg, peace and love to you. June Care, peace and love to you, brother. Put 2 on me, Jonathan Clark. Shout out to Craig West. To also John the Johnny Scissorhands, aka the King Cornholio.
I'm watching him do cornhole. He's taping himself do cornhole on practicing cornhole on Facebook. It's
brilliant. He's becoming a master. He's just doing it up. ESPN's going to start calling him.
I think I got to hit up Craig with a message. I haven't talked to Craig in a long time. I think I got to reach out to Craig.
Reach out to him. I talk to him a little bit sometimes, but I know he's a family man, busy man, working.
He's a good man. We used to talk music a lot. We both like Miles Davis a bunch.
Oh yeah, there you go. That's my dude. I love Craig. We all got a brotherhood here, but peace and love to everyone. We're going to say good night to you all. Thank you for tuning in, and go Knicks. All nicked up. You know how we do the Jalen Brunson out here. Have a beautiful night, everyone. Good night.
Take care now.